All right, I'd like to welcome you to another chat with Anita and Matt. We've got a really good one today. I'm excited about this. Maybe excited's not the right word. A little bit passionate and tinged with some frustration, I think is probably the best way to describe how I feel. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt. He's going to tell you what we're going to be chatting about today, and then we'll just let this roll. All right, Matt, what are we doing?
I mean, we agreed this morning. We talked about partnerships, and they're called JV partnerships, affiliates, but a very popular, topic, I guess. A lot of people are pushing partnerships as the way to expand your business, to reach a new audience, to get your message out to the world, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to, we have a unique solution we need to share with the world, and you have your people in your list, but what if you could give the same message to people on other folks' lists and get it out to their world? So it makes a ton of sense to be able to partner up with some folks. But I think the problem falls into, once again, these strategies that are being used that are kind of tarnishing, what should be a good tactic. So sounds like Anita has at least a story or two to tell about partnership opportunities that might have gone wrong. But we thought we'd talk about this now and see if others have shared the same experience of partnerships that, should have worked and failed, or were set up in such a way that it just didn't feel right. Like this didn't feel like the way you're supposed to do this. And we've talked in this series about, there are deep psychological reasons a lot of these tactics and high pressure sales and other things that the online marketers push don't feel quite right. And we should listen to that. So,
yeah. So I'm just going to clarify in case somebody doesn't know what JV stands for. And in the digital marketing world, it's joint venture. So these partnerships are to help whomever is participating in them to make more money. Essentially, that's really what it is. And Matt mentioned it's used as a tool to scale. And you can scale quickly by opening yourself up to other people's audiences who you might not have access to in other ways, or let's say it would just take a long time to build into those areas. So when I came into the digital marketing world almost 3 years ago, I had no idea about these joint venture partnerships. But what I did notice is how come so-and-so is talking to so-and-so and promoting their product and this webinar and this service and this, I didn't get that really what these people do is they work together to help each other's businesses. But once you're into this a little more and you start finding out how the system works, you find out that they all help each other. They're all working in the same group, and you do a launch, and then once your launch is done, I'll launch my product, and then you can help me, with a joint partnership to get that launch even bigger. It's kind of frustrating when you're first starting out and you're getting on this list and that person's list, and whenever there's a launch, suddenly you're getting, 6 different emails coming through from the different lists, all pushing the same product that is currently in its launch phase. And I remember thinking like in the beginning, like, what is going on here? I don't understand this. And then it was like, oh, I get it now. These guys are promoting somebody's product that is being launched.
And when you get to a later stage, that's the early stage. Later stage, you see it and you just roll your eyes like, oh, so-and-so has a launch. So here comes the email barrage. Here and sure enough, 6, 8, 10 different people are, because they're all in on it and they all get rewarded for participating. So.
Yeah. And that was the part that took some time. So once I got involved with the Facebook ad agency that I was working for at the time, I began to understand how these things actually work, because the company I was working for would participate in some of these launches. And I remember there was one in particular where I didn't realize that they have competitions to see who among the partners can get the most number of people to purchase that product from their list. And the year prior, my boss had actually won the competition, and they have money, they have like, there's all sorts of different tactics they have to really encourage pushing these products onto the people on their lists. And it was just like, it blew me away. I had never even considered that any of these would be like this, like to have a competition. It's not about the clients or the customers that they have. It's just about who can win this competition so that they can make more money.
And I mean, and it's tense, you know, if you're in this, if you're an affiliate with these folks, I mean, they're emailing you multiple times a day saying, okay, Anita is, you know, she's maintaining a lead, but Matt's coming on strong. Come on, Matt, you just need to sell a few, you know, and they're just jockeying for position. But to the rest of us who are not in there, you know, it's like you're looking through the glass at you know, these big affiliates. You're also an affiliate, but of course you're not going to win because you don't have the list that they have. But yeah, it's a very eye-opening experience to see what, you know, goes on behind these competitions.
Yeah. Were you actually an affiliate once, Matt? Like part of one of these launches and sending out? Yeah,
I did that a couple of times. I've been in online marketing for only about 4 years or so, but early on I was like, oh, because I was told, well, this is what you do. Yeah. You know, you bought my product, essentially what the guru was saying. So you need to, you know, be my affiliate. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I was an affiliate, but you know, I've got my little tiny list and my people who, you know, so I'm promoting it and getting, you know, 3 or 4 sales, just a handful, like feeling really good. But then you look at the leaderboard. Now they never tell you how many sales they have, because that would be something they wouldn't share, because those numbers are probably far lower than you can imagine. The difference between these people is very small. But yeah, it's like, you know, so-and-so is, you know, they have the top 10 leaderboard, and here's the people coming up, and, you know, so-and-so is in line to get that car, and so-and-so is in line to get that, you know, $5,000 gift certificate for whatever. And yeah, it was kind of exciting the first time, but then of course you feel kind of left out because you're not going to make their top 10 when you're up against, you know, the caliber of lists and size of lists that they have.
Yeah.
But after I did it, I don't know, it just left a bad taste in my mouth, because it's like, why am I really doing this? And am I really serving my people by pitching something? I have no idea what this is, and I'm trying to explain. And when I did it the first time, it's because I bought the product. The second time, I didn't really get much out of the product. And then I found myself pitching it, and I stopped right in the middle of the I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm just doing what you're supposed to do in this online marketing. And that's a lot about what our chats have been about, is you're just going with the flow. This is what you're told to do. And oh, well, this must be the thing to do, until you stop and realize, you know, am I really serving my people? Couldn't I be sharing something else with them? You know, who is this about them, or is this about adding some dollars, you know, to my account?
Yeah. And I remember so this was a team meeting we were having, and one of the members had said to my boss, oh, are you joining so-and-so's launch? He's got all of this, whatever the prizes were. And my boss wasn't interested in joining for this year. Something had happened. I don't know the specifics of it. But that was the first time. So I'd been into this about 1.5 years. That was the first time I had heard that they actually competed for prizes. And it kind of was exciting. And then on the other hand, extremely disappointing. Because I'm thinking from my own, obviously, platform and my values and what I believe, I thought these people were doing it because they wanted to be helpful to their audiences. I know it's totally naive of me, and I'm sure some people would be thinking like, oh, come on, Anita, how could you be that naive? But I was. And because I don't operate from a money first mentality, I never considered that would be the case. And I was disappointed, and I will actually say pissed off too. And this is what got me really started down this pathway of realizing that I don't want to align myself with these people. And all you have to do is look to see who is pitching the next big launch, to find out who's in sort of the system, right? The JV system or their little group, to go, wow, I thought so-and-so was okay. And as best as I could tell, they seem to align with my values. And then suddenly they're pitching this product. And then it's no sooner that one finishes than the next launch is happening and they're pitching that too. And it was, I think the thing that really upset me the most was that I was trying to find people who aligned with my values. And I thought these people did, until I saw this behavior. And I don't know how else to say it, except for it's just motivated by greed, because oftentimes the products they were pitching were not particularly helpful to their audiences. And not to mention, like, they're pitching it year after year after year, right? So I'm sure their numbers are dropping, which is why they would, pull out different tactics over that period. And it just really upset me, because it's like, great, here's somebody that I thought I aligned with and I was starting to feel good about following them. And then boom, I'm right in the middle of a launch and not interested in helping them make more money. And then it would be like, great, so take myself off their list, take myself off their list, take myself off their list. On the one hand, it's good because it's helping me clarify then what my values are and how I want to operate my business. On the other hand, it was disappointing because then you don't have that community in the same way anymore to try to find others who are like you. Is that kind of your experience too, Matt?
Yeah. And I mean, another eye opener for me was maybe a year and a half ago. I think you and I were talking about this as well. There's a online marketing guy who's well known, who had all these partners pitching his product. And after the fact, just through somebody I knew, said, I think his total sales was maybe 300 products. Now, if you multiply that out, well, that's a lot of cash. Now, of course, he has to give 50% back to the affiliates. But my takeaway from that was, this is a guy who had partnered with some of the biggest names in online marketing. And many, 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 I mean, the list of affiliates was huge. And I'm like, all these people pitching this product to their lists, including some of the biggest names who have some of the, 100,000 people on their list and more. And the grand total was 300 sales. Yeah. And so you backtrack, you're like, what would that be? Like 1/100th of 1% of everybody that was at. No, I know they don't, share it with their whole list, even though your partner, a lot of people just segment off a list. But the number was so small. And I thought, oh my gosh, if this guy with every advantage, his huge list, his audience, he's been around a long while, all these like top name online marketers, all promoting his product, got 300, like what hope is there for me? Doing this on my own and with a couple of friends. So it just made me rethink that. When I was thinking, oh, this must be tens of thousands, it was 300. And then from there, it just kind of started to unravel once I started talking to folks. They're like, yeah, this JV thing is not what you think it is in terms of these numbers. So I just didn't want others to get that same sense, because the momentum behind it is so huge. Oh yeah, you got a JV. You have to be more realistic. These numbers are far, far smaller than you can imagine using that strategy. Not to say you don't have, not to use it. I'm not saying don't use it. Just be very realistic. These numbers are a lot smaller than you would think.
Yeah, but we don't get that sense when they talk about the millions of dollars they made, because let's say 300 times 2,000 is still a really big chunk of coin.
Minus half, right? Because you have to give half to your partner. So
yeah, but we don't often hear that part of it. We just hear how big the launch was and how much money it made gross, right? We don't hear.
You hear it's a 7-figure launch. And
yeah, it's a 7-figure launch. Absolutely. And then who knows what they're left with at the end by the time they pay out all the affiliates and their staff and whatever else they needed to do for the launch. And I believe we talked about this last episode about these launches. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen, because that's what kind of sparked this discussion today. Yeah, we'll put the link in the description so that you can go back and listen. I want to share, I love stories. I'm a story person. So I want to share a story, and this happened recently. So there's this person, I bought their course. I actually got a lot of use out of it. He's not a spammy person. He's not one of these people who's always jumping on these different launches, although probably every 3 months or so, he will partner with somebody and promote their product that they're launching. So this came across, this email came across. He was promoting a book, this amazing book by this guru that he was really excited about. And I think the book was like $12 or something like that. I don't know. I'm Canadian, so it's always more expensive for me. Maybe it cost me $25 because of the shipping internationally. But anyway, it wasn't too bad. And he talked all about the book and how amazing it was. And I was like, all right, I'll take a chance. So I whip out my credit card, throw in all my details. And maybe a week later, I get the book. Now, Matt, you know what book I'm talking about, because I was just horrified, absolutely horrified by the piece of crap that I received. This book wasn't helpful at all. It wasn't any sort of step-by-step plan. This was just this guy stroking his own ego about how amazing he was. I am a fast reader just because I used to have to read so much for when I was writing. And honestly, I got to the point, I think I read the book in maybe an hour and a bit because I just couldn't take it anymore. It's one of these, all right, well, skip to here. Oh, great. More of the same, more of the same, more of the same.
Well, that isn't uncommon, right? A lot of these books, like the first half is all about that person, and then the second half is like a marketing pitch. And they call it.
And there was another book I had bought that it was exactly like that. It was this guru story for the first half, and then the second half was just all exactly. It was all a pitch to get you to buy the course. That was the whole purpose of the book. Well, this book wasn't like that. There wasn't a pitch in the same way, but it was awful. And I was going to leave a review and say just how horrible it was. And then I thought, you talked me out of doing it, Matt, lest my words be misconstrued somehow. And it suddenly sounded like I thought the book was amazing. Do you remember that you guys were like, all right, Anita, maybe you just want to not comment at all. It's probably the best thing you can do. So I listened. I didn't comment. But I was so disappointed again by the person who was promoting this product, because it was obvious if he had read it, he wouldn't have promoted it. Unless, again, he's in this group with all of these other gurus, they often feel pressure to participate from the group. And I'm wondering if that is why he promoted this terrible. So I've thrown it away. I couldn't even, I didn't even want, I didn't even want it here in my library, because every time I looked at it, it just gave me such like negative feelings. So I was like, this book's got to go. But there's a lot of pressure for these people in this world that they're all working together to promote each other's products, or even though they might not serve their audience at all. And Matt, did you feel that pressure when you were doing this joint venture promotion?
Yeah, I mean, the definitely pressure's high. You know, it's, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It would probably be unthinkable for you not to promote. It's like, well, what are you talking? Like I just promoted you promote mine. But a great counter to that, I mean, I could give you some bad examples, but let me give you a good example. One I felt really good about recently was a promotion I did. The fellow's name is Tom Poland. He and I have known each other maybe a year and a half, but I really love his stuff. It's just no nonsense. It's just help. He's always helpful. He does lead generation, which is complementary to what I do, which is keeping your customer forever. So I'm not so interested in how you bring folks in. but that's his passion. How do you draw in an audience? He loves that. And my part is, once you have an audience, how do you keep those people in your orbit forever? How do you retain those folks? So it's been a complimentary match. I love what he does. He's been, always had positive things to say about my 9 principles and sideways survey. So we did a promotion recently. It was essentially, I told my folks about his upcoming, he was doing a webinar and getting people interested in signing up for a service. And then I happened to be doing one, maybe just a couple of weeks later, a week later, a webinar that he promoted to his people. And he had complimentary things. There's no money exchange. It's just like, I love what you're doing, and I think more people would benefit. And he said the same thing. And that was our partnership. So I felt really good about that. It's probably the best I felt about a partnership. But guess what? He made money and I made money.
Yeah.
Not from each other, splitting the bill, but just he introduced me to people who hadn't saw things the way that I do them. And I introduced his Leadsology framework, which was new to my audience. So partners are awesome. I think this whole framework of how it's set up, I do this for you, you're going to do this for me, and the 50-50 splits and the contests and the whole, just how it's set up, I think is just really, I don't want to say corrupted. I'm trying to think of a better word than that, but it's just off kilter for what a true partnership should be.
Yeah. And I think you've hit it right. I mean, this is a partnership between you and I as well. That's a chat with Anita and Matt. We're introducing each other to our own audiences. And we just decided to do this because we want to create this movement. We want to have a place for people to be able to come and say, I don't want to be doing that. And I think that's it. It's just a reconception. Partnerships are really important. Like we can't grow our businesses alone. We need other people, and partnerships are one of the best ways. I still agree. If you want to scale, that's the way to do it, but not using those dark marketing tactics. Like there's the reciprocity right there. Well, I helped you launch your product. Now you have to help me launch mine. And when these guys get together in their mastermind groups, there's a lot of pressure to participate and to be somebody who says, oh, I'm not going to participate in so-and-so's launch. Well, you might just be pushed right out of the group. They might just blackball you all together and say, well, okay, then when it comes your time, we're not going to help you either. Like in some ways, I feel like we're back on the school ground when you're little kids and like if I'm going to just take my ball and go home then, if you're not going to play by the rules that we have set. And it makes me mad. It really makes me angry because, again, this is all we're hearing. Maybe not all we're hearing, but certainly is a huge method or way to scale through partnerships. And like you just mentioned with your example, it's not the only way. There are other ways that can be mutually beneficial to your community and still help you make sales. I just think it's the sales part comes second versus with how they're doing it, where really it's all about the sales.
Yeah. Our friend Jennifer Brenton, I'm going to try to paraphrase what she has to say. Hopefully I'll do this some justice, but it was so eloquent the way she said it. It was essentially your people are following you. They're there because they love what you do. They want, to learn more about you and your method. They're your people. And so when you introduce somebody to them, this should be a special occasion. Like, I'm showing you now somebody who really helped me that I want you to meet. It's something special. Like, here, this is my friend Tom Poland, for example. Mm-hmm. And he has helped me. I've taken his course. I've taken his training, and I think this will benefit you. So that's one way to do it, the way that I feel comfortable doing. But when you think of the JV approach, it's like, okay, people, here's this guy. Okay, next week, here's another guy. Okay, next week, here's another guy. Here's another guy. And you just keep, and your people are like, well, wait a minute, I didn't sign up to be on all these lists for all these people. I want to focus on, you're my person, so teach me. And so it has this, there's a negative for you as well in, kind of diluting that, I don't know if it's authority, but it's that diluting, kind of your message to your folks that not everybody can be special. You don't bring in, new folks every week or two for these affiliates. So
there was one guy I was following in particular. I didn't follow him long, maybe 3 or 4 months. Somebody had recommended him. She was part of his program at the time, was really excited about it. She ended up leaving his program around the same time that I realized this guy is not what I thought he was either. But it was every month he was pushing somebody else's product. Like you said, it was like no sooner introduces you to one person and their product and you're like, oh, well, maybe this is interesting. Oh, okay, well, here's another guy and we're now promoting this. And then it would be, whoop. The thing is, though, that I didn't really get to know his stuff because he was so busy promoting everybody else's stuff that I did precisely what you said, Matt. I signed up to learn more about him. If I wanted to learn about those other products, I would have jumped on their lists, and I didn't. And it was really disappointing because that's all it felt like was one pitch after another, after another. And after it was probably, somewhere 5-6 months, I just unsubscribed. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I don't respect this guy at all. Although initially it sounded like what he was doing was really amazing stuff, but I hardly ever saw it because he was too busy pitching all these other people's launches to us. And then the volume of emails, just like, don't even get me started on the volume of emails you get, because it is crazy, the number of emails you get, just straight pitches.
Well, there's another layer of this, and another one of these realization light bulb moments that went off is I've been told like how powerful JV partners are and how you should, that's how you build your list and things. So I got into that as well. I had somebody introduce me to some partners. And so it was essentially them promoting my upcoming webinar to their people. And I did this a few times, and my numbers of folks who bought into, what I was selling was really low. And the number of people, like everything was not what I had heard. I had thought, oh, you blow the roof off with JV affiliates. Just imagine that you're able to get in front of 20,000 people. I mean, the numbers that they were promoting. And so I was looking at like the number of people attending the webinar and how many people stayed to the end and the number of people who bought. And so I went back to the person who had, made the intros, and she said, yeah, that's pretty good. That's normal. I'm like, what do you mean normal? She goes, oh, well, those, that's how this is. You don't usually get that much. I'm like, what are you talking about? I have never heard anybody pitch JV partners and say, yeah, this sort of works. And yeah, I don't expect a lot. Nobody says that. But again, it's like one of those eye-opening once you do it, and then like, yeah, I guess we didn't tell you about that part. So it just made me think again, can anybody just honestly tell us, some real stories of this? And so it's all this inflated numbers and, oh, you're going to quadruple your audience and all that. And the people who do this for a living, no, they know that is not true, but you just don't hear it. So just discouraging.
Yeah. And that's it. So again, this show is all about trying to find alternatives to those kinds of things. Like, again, the JV partnerships and how they're created, like we were just talking about, the sort of standard JV partnerships are great for some businesses. And I'm not saying they're not. There are some people who really want that. They want to find out what the latest product launch is and all of that. That's totally fine. But for those of us who don't want to go that route, it becomes a bit more challenging. So how do we go about this? And I think, Matt, like, I just want to make this point too, because I have heard this with the JV launches. You can have, it's not like you're talking 1 or 2 people promoting the product. You can have 50 to 100 people. Like, some of these JV partnership lists are long, and they have to work to try to motivate the people who are on the list selling for them. they've got to also, so it's, they're launching their own stuff, they're doing their own stuff and trying to rally the troops there to sell on their behalf. Like it's a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah,
Like
think
you
of
said,
all the scheduling, you know, the scheduling and the scheduling of the emails, and does it all coordinate, and the messaging. You're right. It is a full-time job.
yeah, it's a huge amount of work. And I get it in the early days of the internet when all of this was brand new and people didn't know, and you could launch one thing after the other because people hadn't heard it. But, you know, when you're launching now the 10th or 11th or 12th year of doing it, you know, your name's already fairly well out there. There aren't that many people coming online that you could get the numbers you used to get before. We're hearing this everywhere. Like you just described, that the people who do this full time know that, yeah, the sales are actually fairly small compared to what they used to be. So it's about, I know for myself, this is where I'm starting to look to partner with other people. But I want to partner with other people for whom, just like you mentioned with Tom Poland, for whom it will actually help my community, my audience. I don't just want to partner with somebody to see if I can make money. I want to make sure that it's helpful. And I like your concept, or Jennifer's concept, of an introduction. It's almost like a personal introduction. Hey, this is someone I found useful, and their material really helped me. I'd like to introduce you to them. And that mindset is really a huge, huge shift. Just think about if you were at a party, right? And you have a few of your friends there. There's somebody that you've met, that you've been talking to for a little while. You want to bring them over and introduce them. You're introducing them because you think they have things in common, and maybe through those common things, something might spark. There might be opportunity there. You don't just, you know, find somebody who you met 2 minutes earlier and drag them over and have them try to sell to all your friends. You won't have friends for very long, unless, of course, that is their whole, you know, value system. So I really like that, Matt. I think that concept of introduction and as a special thing versus something that just happens every single month whenever there's somebody doing a launch really is impactful and thoughtful for the audiences that they're being introduced to.
Yeah, and my caution to folks is just to put things in perspective. You know, you might say, well, I want to partner with Mr. 100,000 list person. Well, guess what? Everybody is gunning for 100,000 guru. They all want to be on his list, and he's not listening to you. You know, there's so much competition to be on his list. So then you say, okay, well, I'm going to shoot for, you know, Mrs. 50,000 person list, you know, because that's somebody. Well, that person's not sending your stuff to her entire list, right? She's not going to send it to people that she just met within 30 days. She has segmented her list. You'll maybe go out to a portion of that list. And I think you'll be disappointed if you think it's going to all 50. But what's wrong with going to the person with 30 people on their list? You might say, well, that's ridiculous. Like, who would want to partner with somebody with only 30 people on the list? Well, I bet you they know every one of those 30 people. And those 30 people are listening to that person. If they turned around to their 30 people and said, Anita's got this great attraction strategy that she uses, you know, how much, you know, you might have 90% of those people say, okay, if you said so. So don't look at the numbers, just look at the person themselves. If it, you know, I guess that's my one thought for the day is just look for partners, people that you like what they do, and don't look at the list size and feel like you have to be in the big, you know, we're giving away cars and pads competition. You can partner with the person with 30 or 40 or 50 people on their list as well.
Sorry, had my mic muted there. I think that's a better way anyway, because then it's about building relationships with you as well, right? With you and the person you're partnering with. it's not just these one-offs where, you know, hey, I'm one of 50 people who are out there, and the person who's doing the launch has no idea who you are. You're just a number on there, like you said, the leaderboard, and you're way down there at the bottom. For me, it's about the relationships, and let's see how we can grow this. And maybe I'll promote your stuff right now, but maybe you won't end up promoting mine right now. Or maybe there's something else that I will do later that makes better sense. I think it's getting out of that, like we talked about before, the sort of reciprocity. I did this for you, now you have to do this for me, the tit for tat. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. If your motives, again, are about who can I help? Who can I help? Full stop. Who can I help? Okay, I can help these people, but I might not be able to help these people. Okay, that's totally fine. But I think there has to be some discernment there, rather than just let's grab as much money as we can and run off to the next thing, and to heck with the rest of you. It just makes me so mad. I have to say, I'm being very good.
You are. Right now. I'm surprised.
Yeah, there's okay, so I will tell you another story about, okay, now this is what really, my face is probably going to go 10 shades of red, but that's fine. So there was a gentleman I spoke to a couple weeks ago. We had connected online. We had a talk, he and I. He was telling me how he left his job and is now wanting to start an online business, but he was really unsure. He could do this, he could do this, he could do this. He was all over the place. So we chatted for a bit. I gave him some advice and mentioned that I had a workshop coming up and that I thought it might be useful for him. So didn't hear from him, decided to reach back out and just see how he was going. Like, there are some people that you really connect with, and whether he joins the workshop or not is irrelevant. I just really wanted to say to this guy, like, hey, it was fantastic connecting with you. I'd like to hear how your journey pans out over time. Will you please stay in touch? So I recorded a little video for him and sent it. And earlier this week, he sent a message to me and said, oh, things are going great. I'm in so-and-so's program, which of course there was just a big launch that happened. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe this, because I bought that program a few years back, and it is meant for people who have existing businesses. You cannot actually go through the course if you don't have a business, although the product is being pitched that way. And I think that's where the majority of the sales are being made, that, oh, if you just, do this, do this, do this, you'll be okay, even if you don't have an existing business. And I was so mad, because it's like, come on, this guy, he knew in his heart that he wanted to start an online business. He wasn't sure which direction he wanted to go. He was obviously on somebody's list for this product that got launched, and he got pulled right in. And it just, I am mad. And it also broke my heart, because now I know this guy is going to go down that path, likely buy yet another product from a product launch, joint venture there, and yet another one, because you've done it, Matt. I've done it. So many of us have done it, because we just don't know that that's how that whole system works. And it was, I'm disappointed. And I'm angry, because I was hoping that through our discussion, he would really follow what was in his heart. And unfortunately, I did it too. So I'm not upset with him, but we just want to believe so much that the answer lies in these products and these courses. And it's not there. It's actually within us. Like we talked about, you like to say the icky feeling. It is that. So that's what happened. And I'm being a good girl, no swearing, no nothing. I'd like to just stomp my feet. But when I read his response to me, I actually just shouted out in frustration, because it's like, here's a great person. And unfortunately, he's riding that wave now. And I just hope at some point that he realizes that really his answers are all within, that he doesn't need all of these courses to help him build the business that he really wants.
Yeah. And that's such a great summary of why we're even doing this. I mean, we're meeting every week just talking about this stuff, and we're not here to just keep hammering, things and criticizing. It just comes from our, just this need to feel like, hey, we've been through this. We have spent and overspent so much money on these platforms and tools. And we went through this process, 3 and 4 year process to be where we are now, and looking back like, oh, we just want to save people from all the money that could have been misspent, and the frustration and the time of your life you will never get back. I look back at the hundreds and hundreds of hours just wasted. I'm like, I can never get that time back in my life.
No,
nothing came of it. It was just following the wrong strategies by people who weren't there to help me. And I got my own brain got in the way, and maybe my own greed got in the way, saying, oh, okay, this is how you do these things, and you just feel sick to your stomach. And that's why we're doing this chat. Like, if this resonates with others who are maybe earlier in the path and feeling the same way, it's kind of like, stop, turn back, go this way. So yeah, that's what it's all about. So I appreciate all these stories, because, we have more to share, and we appreciate anyone listening to, jot their story down below, and a few comments about, similar happenings. I think if there's enough folks mentioning that, get the word out, just can save a couple of people some time in their life that could be better spent elsewhere. It would make these chats, very worthwhile.
I so agree. And yes, my greed, I'll admit it. My greed took me there, because that's what was being promoted. That's what I thought. And I now see that that's not the answer. So I think we've had a great discussion, Matt. I feel better in being able to do my little rants. And like I said, held myself back a bit, because it's not about the ranting. It's like you mentioned, how can we impact other people so they don't have to go down this? And it's in hundreds of hours, and probably in the thousands by the time you think of all the courses and the implementation and all the thinking about it and the email reading and all of that, not to mention the tens of thousands that we spent on actually purchasing these things that now just sit there. And I don't follow any of them. I don't use any of those things, except for to say, great, they're there. This is not the direction I want to go. They now become like a measuring stick for me.
Yeah. And I've had the added advantage of talking the last 6 months or so with a handful of folks who would be recognizable names who are no longer in the industry. As I say, they've moved on. They're doing reflection. I've listened to what they have to say. They're just, because I think they're looking back and saying, that wasn't me, but they were influencing thousands of people who bought their products and services. I'm not saying it wasn't great stuff. It probably was, but just the tactics they were using, it just kind of got caught up in the game, because it becomes a game, the numbers and conversions and the sales and all that. But it just, when you hear these people looking back, like not doing anything, they're just like in contemplation, like what's going to be my next career, and they're thinking through what they would have done differently. It's like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I want to look back and with pride and say, I did this, I accomplished this. These are the people that I helped train and learn. I don't want in a few years be like, oh, wow, rethinking if I should do that. So that's just another bit to the puzzle of why we're doing these chats.
Yeah. So I think we'll wrap it up. Again, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, certainly do. We talk more about the launches there. You can reach Matt and I both on LinkedIn, and, subscribe, like, put those notifications on, comment, the drill, all of that. Share this if there's somebody that you think can benefit from it. Matt and I don't make money off of this. This is not a money-making venture for us. This is really our frustration, like we said, trying to prevent other people from having to 3, 4, or even longer years before you realize that, hey, this is not really congruent with who I am, and I want to go a different direction. So I think that's it, eh, Matt?
Yeah, just let you know that anything that you say in the comments or that you send to us in directly through LinkedIn or whatever is just more stuff that we talk about the following week. So we don't make up a topic until like into the day of, and once we read your feedback and think this thing through. So anything you have to say could very well become next episode.
Yeah. Great stuff. Okay, that's it. And we'll hopefully you'll catch us, or you'll see us, or whichever version you're listening to next week. Take care. Bye for now.
See you soon.